Hey everybody, what's up? Gary Simon here. So today we're going to be stepping into the world of Adobe XD and UI UX design. And some of you have known I have big plans here that are coming up probably more near the end of this year because I'm relaunching DesignCourse.com. And that's going to be the topic of today's video, where I'm actually going to design the initial part of a landing page, like the hero section above the fold as it's called, for DesignCourse.com relaunch. And I'm going to really get in depth in terms of, how I would approach designing something like this, something that's unique, an interesting illustration that's also relevant. I'm not a fan of a lot of the cookie cutter landing pages that I see, maybe with one of those pre-built illustrations, maybe like from I think undraw.com or whatever. They have their place, but if you have a really important project that you're working on, you want it to be unique. You want it to be your own as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the prototypes already that I have built and what I envision DesignCourse.com to actually be. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. If you do, subscribe and let's get started. Before we begin, with the way things are heading in this industry, it's a no-brainer to learn how to prototype. And instead of putting flat files in front of your team, your manager, or your client, imagine being able to hand them a prototype that feels like a live website or app. Sponsor of today's video, Framer, is a no-code, free-to-use tool making it easy for anyone to become a prototyper. The simple onboarding and design-as-you-go tutorials teach you how to use powerful pre-built components, make your own custom animations, and recreate common interactions. After just a few hours, you'll have a new skill that helps you stand out from the crowd. So sign up for free or get 20% off by clicking the link below, which is framer.com/DesignCourse. All right, so to give context to the landing page that we're about to design, I wanted to introduce, what this project is and, some of the prototypes that I've already created for it. And that will help us get a better understanding of, what would be the best type of landing page and the best type of headline illustration to use. All right, so this is the relaunch here. This is going to be of DesignCourse.com, at least the early idea of it, at least. And this is going to be the page that would feature and show up when you've actually registered and you logged in for the first time. Or maybe not the first time, but obviously it says you're 32% complete here, so not the first time. But what it is we have 4 different ways that you're going to be able to learn a UI and UX design. And it's meant to be taken in a linear step-by-step path, although you're not forced. And there's those 4 different ways, or there's 4 different modules, and I'm going to go through them real quickly. Are videos. So these 2 here are videos indicated by the video icon and the tag right here. And these are just single videos, all right? They're not whole courses. They're just one video that will show up during this linear progression of your journey to learning UI UX. So it's just a video player embed here. There's also going to be what are called tests. I may change that to something else. I don't like the idea of a test, but it's kind of what it is. If we click it, we see we have this interesting, this different user interface here. This is kind of screwed up and needs aligned better, but you get the idea. Where there's going to be like a component of some sort. It could be a whole website design, or maybe just a component like this, like a card. And something's going to be wrong about it in terms of the design, and it's going to be up to the student to click on which UI design fundamental is incorrect, or which one should be improved. So in this case, there's a lack of white space on the bottom, right? So we're going to click white space, and it'll say correct, and it will also update in live via a transition and make the correction as it happens in the browser. Contrast, there's no issue with the contrast here, so it says oops, blah, blah, blah. And then by the time you're done and you've selected all the right UI design fundamentals, you'll probably get a rating of some sort, like a point system, and then you go to the next module. And so I'm going to have a ton of these in different orientations and different contexts, where it's really just going to help people understand what the UI design fundamentals are. And then finally, we're going to have full courses worked in with this I guess you could call it a boot camp of sorts in this service. In these full courses, there's going to be a number of them. One's going to be teaching software like Adobe XD. There's going to be a full multi-hour course on that. There's also going to be one for Figma and probably some other prototyping tools. There's also going to be ones like for UI design fundamentals in and of themselves, and also project-based with real clients. So I've already done a couple of those. And so I'm going to be featuring those as well, mixed throughout this linear progression in this timeline. And then finally, there are also challenges. So there's going to be 2 different tiers for the membership. The basic one won't have challenges, and that'll probably be around 19 bucks a month, US dollars. And then there's going to be one that's going to be a bit more expensive, where you get access to the challenges and also live workshops. So the challenges right here, there would be like a design challenge to design some simple header with the details here, and then you paste in your public XD or Figma prototype URL. You submit it. It'll say your work's been submitted, and this will give us the time to go ahead and take a look at your work and then provide a rating, like through a 5-star system, and also a comment about what could be improved. And so that's just going to be a real comprehensive way to help people become a better UI UX designers. It's not only video, it's not only courses, it's going to be a mix of those 4 or 5 different things. All right, so now that we understand that, how the question is, like, how would I sell this? What would the landing page, and especially the top portion, look like, the first impression? And so let's go back. I'm going to go back to my Adobe XD document here, and these are all the prototypes that you just saw here. I have an empty one right here, just with the header. All right, and so this is what we're going to work on. And one of the few things that you have that are a part of a SaaS, software as a service, is usually a headline, maybe a subheadline, a call to action, and maybe either a photograph-based background or an illustration of some sorts. And what I don't like to see, and I do enough of these live UI UX review shows to where I can confidently say I see too many people doing it. What I don't like to see is the cookie cutter sort of uninspired approaches to SaaS landing pages. So for instance, Undraw. So Undraw right here, it's a great source. They have so many similar designed images for every idea out there. There's just so many. So they've done great work with it. But what I will see oftentimes is somebody will download just something random, you know, maybe like this. I'll download this SVG. I'm going to show it in the folder. I'll bring it in here, and maybe they'll change the colors up so it works for the background. Just maybe temporarily, I'll go ahead and do this. And then they'll put their subheadline, you know, right here, and their call to action right here. Now, what I don't like about this is that it is rather uninspired. I think if you're working with a project that's really important, you need to be custom. Now, I know that's a little bit difficult if you're not an illustrator. Find an illustrator if you can. And that's what I'm going to try to do for this project here, because this is obviously a very near and dear project to me. It's my project. I want to do something that's relatively unique and something that's relevant. All right, so that's really almost kind of what logo design in and of itself is as well. You want something that's relevant, and you also want something that's unique. All right, so I've been thinking about it a bit, about, you know, what would I do? How would I approach this? And so before I begin any type of illustration, I do want to get just the headline. And the headline can be, you know, something usually that's catchy. I don't like pointing out the obvious in the headline. So the obvious in this context, and this goes back to like ad copy and understanding marketing, learn UI UX design. Okay. This would be uninspired as well. All right. So you want to do something that's going to really grab the attention of a visitor or a potential customer, right? So for me, what I thought is maybe I would use a quote. All right, maybe somebody that this industry or most people knows will have used this service before I launch it, and they're going to say something profound about it. All right, so let's say they said something like, if you're really serious about UI UX, check out DesignCourse. All right, so maybe they said something like this. All right, that looks pretty good right there for now. Now, instead of just putting little quotes like this, I want to do something a little bit more interesting. And let's go ahead and give a quote here. Somebody just messaged me. I'm going to do an outside quote. Make them a little bit bigger. Make them really stand out. Maybe something like that. Yeah, something like that. For now, that's okay. I'm not sure if I like that, but usually if you try to sit there staring at one thing for too long, you get an analysis paralysis. We don't want that. So we can adjust things when we get more elements onto the board here. And so maybe someone like Trad Braversy. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that person before, but maybe that person said something like that. And let's just assume everybody knows who that is. Said that thing. We'll put that there, and then we'll just put, maybe this person's a part of like Braversy Media, YouTube. Now, of course, we want good visual hierarchy between these two elements, so we're going to make this one regular and perhaps make it smaller and perhaps less contrast. There we go. Get this situated here. And maybe Trad Braversy looks like this. Where are we at? Let's go to Photo Splash. We're just going to type in male. Yeah, maybe he looks like that guy. Let me get this guy into place, and there we go. There's Trad Braversy. All right, so maybe they said something like this, and this would be really effective if everybody knew who Trad Braversy was in the industry. All right, so that looks pretty good. Maybe I'll take this call to action button up here, and we're going to copy and then paste and then get back over here, and we'll have a start learning call to action right here. Something like that. So now this frees us up for having some type of illustration. And there's so many different ways. There's a lot of subjectivity in this type of context. There's a lot of things that you can do right, and there's many of them, right? So it just needs to be executed well, whatever it is that you do. So it needs to be relevant, and it needs to be sort of unique. And what I mean is not literal. Like, for instance, if I'm trying to show people how to design like a good user interface element, I wouldn't put an actual user interface element exactly as you would find on a browser or something. I would try to do it in an abstract manner, maybe like a skeleton UI manner or like a wireframe manner. It just seems to make more sense to do it that way, in a more just an abstract way. So what I'm just going to do is, and my idea is to have this animate in a very interesting way with maybe GSAP or CSS animations. So what I'm going to do is just kind of create kind of like a card here. All right. And we're going to have this filled in with just a color that is slightly lighter than the background it's sitting on. Maybe we'll have slightly rounded edges. All right. And I'm going to duplicate this with Control D, drag this up, and maybe we'll have like a photo-based thumbnail card here. Maybe it will be a little bit lighter in that regard. And also we'll go ahead and let's go to, wait, before we do that, I hate when I do this where you can see the rounded edges here. Let's fix that. Take this to 0 and 0. Oops, I did the wrong two ones. It is going to be, let's see, that one and that one. There we go. Those both 0. All right. So now we're going to go to Icon Finder, and we're going to get picture. I didn't mean to spell that right. Picture. And then we're also going to choose free. And then we will just use this one. Download icon in SVG. We will show in folder, which is showing up on the other monitor. And we will just drag this bad boy in right here. Yep, perfect. And then we'll get this color and then make it slightly lighter. All right. And then we'll do a skeleton UI. which if you don't know what that is, like you've seen it if you've used some services like Facebook or whatever, instead of like, you know, when something's loading, they're not going to show an actual post. They'll just do like placeholder visual elements, indicators of where things go. All right. Basically called a skeleton UI. Let's see here. Color, we can either go lighter or darker. I think that actually probably makes sense just to use this. Or no, I like a little bit lighter. All right, so that's good. We'll go ahead and repeat the grid. That's good right there. Ungroup it. Right click, ungroup. Yep. There, oh, that's good. We'll have one there. We'll have this going out to the side. Maybe we'll duplicate this. Maybe there's like little buttons down here. And so maybe on this one I'll have some color in it, you know, maybe like a blue. You don't want to go like this much blue over here because the contrast gets lost a little bit. So you can go up maybe a little bit higher up, working some lightness in there a bit. Maybe this one will be a little bit lighter. All right, so that's looking pretty good. I like that. Again, we can always take the size and increase it just a bit with the scale. Yeah, it's looking pretty good there. And so I wouldn't just leave it like this, of course. We would want it to animate in, and maybe we would want to do something interesting with it, like perhaps we could use CSS transform to put it as perspective on it. That would be kind of cool. We can't do perspective here in Adobe XD, unfortunately, so I can't show you what I'm talking about, but that could, maybe it could be facing this here with a perspective on it slightly. What I mean by perspective is like, you know, this thing where you do this and everything else is perspective inside of it. But again, that would be achieved through CSS by taking like this SVG asset here and doing that. And so the idea, going back to what I was talking about, having it relevant and unique, what is this service about? To help people create effective UI, UX designs. Perhaps this particular card, when somebody loads up the page and comes here for the first time, maybe it looks kind of ugly at first, but then we'll animate it into the correct positions. That would be a real cool, relevant, unique take on creating an illustration for a landing page to really get people interested in what you have to say or offer. So leaving it like this by itself, I don't really like, because it's a little bit too bland and boring. I'm thinking about maybe having some other ones that are less contrast. So I think I'm just going to pause. I'm not going to show that process because it's going to take a while. But I will unpause and then show you what I've come up with. All right, so here's what I came up with. I think it's pretty cool. So let me just kind of get this away. There we go. So all I did was create these watermark based. These should be in the middle here. What am I doing? I must have got messed up when I was moving stuff around and grouping them. This is supposed to be like a card that emulates, what do you call, like a chart right here. There we go. And these are just kind of UI wireframes, and it's helping, you know, them being such low contrast does two things. First of all, it enables me to put this up here behind this text, and because it's so low contrast, you can still read the content on top of it. I can't talk. And then also, it also makes this particular one, you know, be the feature card that's going to have some sort of animation in it. Now, I could leave it like this, but I came up with a different idea that I think would be kind of cool. So if I take this and I rotate things to like 45, or maybe more like around there, like 30 degrees, I could probably do something interesting, like position this here, and then start to take some of these and just repeat them. Like put one here, and then maybe put another one here. These would need to be equal width as well. and then just kind of really fill it out. Now look how cool that looks. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to pause again, and then I'll come back once I've kind of finished this this visual of what I plan to achieve doing this sort of rotated effect here. All right, and here's what I've come up with. Basically, it for the most part goes all the way. I decided to take a few of these out, like here and here. So it's for the most part a repeating background. But I think this is really cool. It just kind of gives you an interesting perspective rather than having it flat like you're normally used to seeing. And you see this sort of thing a lot when it comes to like dribble designs. Like I guarantee you, if we go to dribble right now, and we go to look at this. It just makes it look more interesting. That's like a lot of these that are popular and featured. You'll see these sideways skewed or slightly off-centered look at designs. It's just kind of like a designer's trick to make things look a little bit more interesting than they are. So I think this is actually pretty cool. And we could use something like GSAP to really animate in this SVG in some unique fashion that makes it look really interesting, and maybe even have a little bit of movement in the background here. But overall, for, you know, on the desktop at least, for really impressing somebody and really knocking off everything that we need to check off with on the checklist of effective landing page design, I think is here. So we have a nice headline from somebody everybody knows, Trad Braversy, and a call to action, maybe or learn more, and then down here we continue on. By the way, I achieved this with a gradient element here, so you can see that, just so it kind of fades in and down. So perhaps in the next lesson, I'll go ahead and make this a reality in the actual browser. And let me know if you guys would like to see that in terms of like having this animate in somehow. Let me know in the comments below. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and especially if you want to see a part 2 with the front-end development of this portion. And yeah, I will see you guys real soon. Subscribe up, and goodbye.